Okay. Question reads, the profits to be realized from a renewable energy business project to the nearest $1,000 are believed to follow the probability distribution shown below. Okay, so here where there's X represents the profits. And this P open brackets X equals X, this represents the probabilities. Okay, so the probability of making a loss of 2,000, 10%. Probability of making a loss of 1,000, 10%. Probability of breaking even, no profit, no loss, 20%. Probability of making a profit of 1,000, we do not know because there's a value K here. Probability of making 2,000, 30%. So the question now reads, determine the value of K. All right, colleagues. So these type of questions dealing with probability, always remember that probabilities are supposed to add up to 100% or 1. So to find the value of K, we're going to add all these probabilities and equate them to 1. All right? And then we'll be able to find the value of K. So what you need to do is set an equation up like this. Let me just put this here. You start like this. You're going to say summation of the probabilities P x equals x. Equals 1. What was just basically saying here is when we add up all the probabilities, they should give us 1. And now we put in the figures there into the equation there. So we'll say let's choose the normal word. Yeah. We're going to 0.1 plus 0.1 plus 0.2 plus K plus 0.3 equals 1. Okay, so basically here we just have to find the value of K. What has happened then? So 0.1 plus 0.1, 0.2 plus 0.2, 0.4, 0.4 plus 0.3, that is 0.7. So 0.7 plus K equals 1. find the value of k, you just take the 0.7 over the equal sign, 1 minus 0.7, and you get 0.3. So what this 0.3 is telling us, that the probability of making a profit of 1,000 is 30%. Any questions? Okay, we go to part B. Find the probability that the renewable energy business project makes a loss. Okay, so that the probability that this makes a loss, so we come here, come back on our table here. So the probability they make a loss of 2,000, 0.1. So we'll get this 0.1. Probability makes loss of 1,000 is 0.1. Let me just answer this call. Hello? I'll call you. I'm having a class. Yes. So on this part, makes the probability that this company makes, on find the probability that it makes a loss. So here we're going to add these two probabilities, because these probabilities are representing that it makes a loss. So we just add them and just admit some people in. Yeah, so we just add them. 0.1 plus 0.1, that is 0.2. Okay, so you just add those two probabilities. Say the probability making a loss is 0.2. Right? So there's a 20% probability that you're going to make a loss. Any questions? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're picking these numbers down, these probabilities under the profits. That's what we've done here. Was that your question, sir? If we're using the numbers under the that this 0.3 is saying there's a 30% chance you make a profit of 2,000. Now here in this question, we're asking what's the probability that you make a loss. So was that your question, or maybe there's a follow up after that one? You have gone ahead of me, sir. I haven't. That's where I was coming to. So you have answered the question already. Gone ahead of me. Okay, so as this next part, as it says, it realizes a profit of at least 2,000. So when you hear at least, it means the minimum profit has to be 2,000. Okay. Now on this table here, our profits end on 2,000. Okay. If there was a profit after 2,000, would have included that and its probability. Okay. So the probability that this business realizes a profit of at least 2,000 is going to be this 0.3. Okay, because when we say at least 2,000, we're including 2,000 and any profits above 2,000. Okay, colleagues? When we say at least, it means you're using this sign here, where X, which represents the profits, is greater than or equal to 2,000. So it means you include 2,000 and then any profits above 2,000. Okay, so the probability that realizes a profit of at least 2,000 is 0.3. Any questions? Okay, here's an additional question. What is the probability that he realizes a profit of at least 1,000? A profit of at least 1,000. Just try again, sir. Mhm. Yes, someone raised the hand. Correct. Right. When we say profit of at least 1,000, means you're including the probability of making a profit of 1,000 plus the probability of making 2,000. These writings, let me just erase them. They're making life difficult. Yes. Colleagues, are we okay with how that 0.6 has come? Since we're saying the probability of making a profit of at least 1,000, it means profit of 1,000, profit of 2,000, you add those two probabilities, and then you get 0.6. Okay, we can go to part C. Well, we have to find the expected earnings. So, colleagues, in probability, whenever you hear the word expected, just know you're talking about an average. Okay. So here we want to just find out what would be the average earnings, basically. Okay. On average, how much are you going to make when you invest in this? That's what we're trying to find out here. On average, if you invest in this project, how much will you make on average? So for expected earnings, this is the formula. EX, expected earnings, equals summation of X multiplied by PX equals X. Colleagues, what this Greek is saying in simple words is you're going to multiply each probability with the profit attached to it. All right, you're just going to add them up. All right, that's what this means here. Each probability, you're going to multiply it with the profit attached to it. Okay, so let me just bring the table down so that yes. So this is going to equal to, so we start negative 2,000 multiplied by 0.1 plus negative 1,000 multiplied by 0.1 plus 0 multiplied by 0.2 plus 1,000 multiplied by 0.3 plus 2,000 multiplied by 0.3. All right. So let's get our calculators. Negative 2,000 times 0.1, that should be negative 200 if I'm not mistaken, plus negative 1,000 times 0.1, that should be negative 100. Colleagues, confirm for me, is it negative 200, negative 100? Can we confirm the figures? Mr. Twambo, Mr. Chimonya, Mr. Foster? Okay. I hope. Okay. 1000 times 0.3, 300. 2000 times 0.3, 600. Confirm if these are the figures. Yes. The secret is when you're multiplying by a decimal, there's one decimal point, just remove one zero. Okay? Remove one zero. Okay, so negative 200 plus negative 100, positive and negative make negative, so that gives us negative 300. Negative 300 plus 0, negative 300. Negative 300 plus 300, that is 0. 0 plus 600, 600. So on average, this is how much profit you can expect to make when you invest in this business. Any questions? Would any of you be willing to invest in such a project? Okay, okay. The next part, we need to find the standard deviation of the profits. Remember, colleagues, standard deviation is just how far the profits are away from the average. Okay, how far the profits are, how far the profits are from the average. Okay, if they're close to the average, at least you can, okay, this is a stable business. At least I know my profits are in this consistent range. But if the standard deviation is big, now it means you can make high profits, you can make a big loss. Yes. So to get the standard deviation, first you need to get the variance. And remember, colleagues, how I'm typing, this is how you should be answering in the exam. Okay. So variance equals E x squared minus ax squared. Okay. Then this breaks down to this. Now here the only difference is this x is going to be squared here. Mm. Yes, sir. Here's the formula here. But this is, as you see, they'll just give you this part only. I'm just adding this part for your understanding. Because after I put the formula, then you just have to start the tabulations. So this ex squared, what it just means is, remember the way we're calculating the average here, probability multiplied by its the profits. So in this case here, our profits were going to square them, okay? The x squared just means the profits are going to square them. So it's going to be the same process as before, but only this time we'll be squaring the profits, okay? Yes, this formula can simplify to this. Just telling you, you square the profit, this x squared, you square the profit, and you multiply it with its probability. Then this ex squared, our average profit that we got, we're going to square it. Are we following, colleagues? Any questions? So this negative 2000, you need to square it. Let me put a squared there. This negative 1000, you need to square it. All of this minus our expected earning, that's 600 squared. Let's say minus 600 squared. Okay, so we begin the process. So negative 2000 squared, what do we get? It should be 4 million if I'm not mistaken. Times 0.1, 400,000. Huh? Okay, negative 1000, that is 1 million times 0.1, 100,000. Here, 0 squared is 0 times 0.2, that is 0 plus 1000 squared, that is 1 million times 0.3, 300,000 plus 2000 squared, that's 4 million times 0.3, 4 million times 0.3. On this part here, 2000 squared times 0.3. 1,200,000. Okay. Minus 600 squared. Like this. Okay. So So 400,000 plus 100,000, 500,000 plus 300,000, 800,000 plus 1.2 million, that is 2 million. So 2 million minus 360,000 . 1,640,000. So once you calculate, or before we go to get the standard deviation, any questions? Okay, the standard deviation equals the square root of this one. So what is the square root of 1,640,000? This is a very high standard deviation. It means the profits are very far away from the mean. They are very far away from the mean. Okay, meaning, yes, you can make an average of 600, but maybe another day you can make an average of maybe 3,000. The other day you make now a loss of 3,000, a loss of 1,000. The bigger the standard deviation, the further the profits are from the average. So this is a risky business, colleagues. It is not stable. Any questions before we make our decision now? All right. So when deciding whether to make a decision on this investment, these are the factors you need to consider. Number one, you have to compare the probability of making a loss versus the probability of making a profit. Which one is high? So if we go to our table, again, we said there's a 20% chance you can make a loss. 20% chance. And then if we go to the profits, 0.3 plus 0.3, there's a 60% chance of making a profit. So that is a good sign. Okay. At least the probability of making profit is better than the probability of making a loss. So that is a good sign. So in this case, 1 point for this investment. The probability of making a profit is greater than the probability of making a loss. The second factor is the expected earnings. Okay. So here we have an expected earning of 600. Okay, sometimes your expected earnings, especially if the probabilities of a loss were high, you might have even have an expected earning of a loss. But here we have got a positive expected earning, which is 600. So that's also a good thing. At least the average profit is positive. We expect to make a profit. Number three, the standard deviation. How stable are the profits in this business here? Okay, because all of us, when we're investing, you want to invest in a business where at least your earnings should be stable. Not today, they should be high, they should be low, high, low, high, low. You don't want them swinging like that. Let's say a big risk taker, yes. But most of us are conservative. Okay, we don't want to take a lot of risks. So in this case here, this is a big standard deviation, meaning this industry here, it's kind of risk. One day you can make a lot of profit, the other day you can make a big loss. Okay, if you're lucky enough, you can make big profits throughout, but we know business how it is. At times, businesses you are going to make losses. So the probability, the chance of you making a big loss or a big profit is very high because of this high standard deviation. So this standard deviation is a bad side for this one here. Unless you are a risk taker, then a high standard deviation, you'll be like, okay, I'm willing to take the risk. I want to make big profits. Even though if I make a big loss, it is okay. So, colleagues, now I'll leave it up to you. Do you think this is a good investment? I want to hear you. Based on these three key criteria. Mr. Twambo, earlier on you said, yes, I can invest in this business. Would you still invest with a high standard deviation like that? Mr. Twambo was good. Mr. Chimonia, mm, okay. And one thing, oh, okay, no, finish up before I say my what I need to say. They are low. Mhm. Okay. Before the second person comes in, yes. So it also just comes down also if you are a risk taker. Okay, if you are a risk taker, because with this, yes, with this standard deviation, it will come down if you're a risk taker. And I know most of us are not risk takers. We're conservative. Yes, the next hand that was raised. Yes. No, no, the standard deviation is the one that was too much. Yeah. You need someone else. Yes. Okay, to put it just more into context, okay? When we say a small standard deviation, think of it like this: average profit of 600, average profit of 650, average profit of 590, average profit of 630. Okay, that's a small standard deviation. You see. Now, a big standard deviation like this, maybe 600, 1,800, 5,000. This is going on the positive side, but also on the negative side, it's also going big like that. Okay. So, as I said, most of us are conservative. Okay. Even me, I'm a conservative person. When I'm investing money, I don't want to lose it. At least if it's coming back in small returns, I'm okay with that. Okay. But in life, remember, if you want to be rich, okay, if you want to be rich, you need to take risks. Isn't that right, Mr. Trump?